trying to keep down another person because of their race
Well, that's
alone.
happening right now. That's
I
happening
know,
right now.
I know, but I'm saying like, well, I'm talking about like on a government scale.
Yeah,
By
that's happening
last,
right now.
yeah, inside the United States.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's called the welfare system.
yeah, well,
You want to know how to keep a population poor? Keep them dependent, wholly dependent upon financial and social services that you provide, and incentivize them to continue to rely on those services so that they never have a big, hairy, audacious goal, so that they
there
never
you go.
think there could be something more. When I was going through my social work program, one of the things that they taught us to do, and this is like in my textbook,
Mm,
was when you are providing social services to somebody, make sure that they do not earn more money. Make sure that they do not earn too much money to still receive government benefits, right? Because there's a threshold. If you
mm-hmm,
earn more than $12,000 a year, the government will no longer subsidize you to live in your shitty little two bedroom, one bath apartment
mm-hmm,
with your three kids, working your two jobs, right?
mm-hmm.
The government won't pay you anymore, and they want to keep you locked down. They want to keep you on that lifeline because and this is where I had a real issue with that. Like we are working to ensure that there can always be a market for social work, which means that there always need to be people who are poor,
Mm.
which means that we need to incentivize people to stay poor. Interesting. There was one thing I wanted to ask you about. Have you, like, you remember reading about like eugenics
Yeah.
growing up? Like it was sort of this, the way I remember eugenics being taught, uh, especially in my undergrad
Mm-hmm.
uh, from University of Phoenix, was like it was sort of a precursor to psychology,
Oh, really? Mm.
sort of like an attempt to understand the structures of the brain and how they contributed to your actions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The consequence of eugenics was sort of, um, how do we create the best version of humanity possible by limiting who can have children?
Mm.
Right. That was sort of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay, how can we tell that this person is going to pass off positive genes?
Right,
Right.
right,
And
right.
they had magazines, they had societies spread out throughout the country, throughout Europe, and and it sort of all boiled down to this idea that we could improve the human race by selective breeding.
Mm-hmm.
What does that sound like to you?
Eugenics.
Sounds like what the Nazis were trying to
Well,
accomplish.
yeah, it was exactly what the Nazis were trying to do. But
Precisely.
but I got something to add to that when you're ready.
Oh, yeah, 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 go for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so slave owners did that as well in the Americas specifically.
Yeah.
It's not a it's not
Here's
a
my best guy. Here's my
yeah,
best female.
yeah,
We're going to be in this shack together
yeah.
every night for how many years, and let's hope kids come out of it.
It's by no coincidence that what you call it that generations later are dominating sports today.
I've often thought that as well. Like,
It's it's like people don't want to talk about it, and I
well, I
get
mean, you
it.
take 200
Like
years of
like
selective breeding.
like we shouldn't talk about it. It's me. It's not a happy subject to talk about. Like what did they
There
do during the
is
slave period? Is that they
there is
literally did
nothing.
eugenics to build a bigger, stronger slave.
There is
And
literally nothing we should not talk about.
yeah, well, yeah,
Lay that on.
and at the end of the day, they did
Yeah.
right. And then the generations later are stronger, bigger,
Yeah.
right? Like these are just That's just
Have it.
how it happens, right? And like the slave owners did it, the Nazis tried to do it because they had this thing about the perfect Aryan race type of thing, and that was their vision, right, of what the best human looked like, whatever, for reasons of their own.
Do you know what the American eugenics movement became?
Now, wasn't it post World War II when we had paper clips, right? When we paperclipped the Nazi scientists over anyway, and they became part of some of the major movements, right? And that's
Yes.
where eugenics actually came in the United States,
No.
right? No,
Eugenics was
okay.
present in the United States in the early 1900s, late
Oh,
1800s.
okay, good. Okay.
It was imported over from Europe, sort of found a foothold here, even
Uh,
after it had fallen out of favor in Europe. And they were like, "Yeah, this kind of seemed like bullshit." It morphed into Planned Parenthood.
oh, really?
It's not deciding who should breed on the front end,
It's
but
deciding who should not.
who should have kids on the back end, right? And there was a whole, let's call it a multi-decade issue where uh, Native American women were being unwittingly given full hysterectomies
Hmm,
under the guise of uh, like female female medical care.
really?
Oh yeah. So they
Hmm.
actually explored the idea in Yellowstone. Did you ever see that? Did you ever see that show?
Not yet.
So it's good.
I'm waiting for a good binge opportunity.
It's it's really good. But that is one of the like the subplots that they sort of write into the second or the
Mm,
third season is this sister and this brother have the sister has this intense animosity toward her brother and like third season in it comes out that he took her to a Native American or a it was essentially an abortion clinic
hmm.
on a reservation, and they were like, "Hey, you know what we do here, right?" And he was like, "Yes, do it anyway." Like, like, like she's pregnant, she's freaking out as like a teenager, and he's like, "All right, well, I can take you to a guy." And at like 14 or 15, she had a full
Wow.
hysterectomy, and right, and so that there's this animosity between the two of them.
Hmm.
But that was based on uh, actual,
Actual.
yes, actual practice where, hey, this group of people should not be able to freely reproduce because of the negative consequences that, their freedom of choice visits upon the world. Like they're just bringing more poverty into the world. And I found that absolutely fascinating because, um, like, when I was a kid, I used to think, well, it would make sense if we didn't have so many people on Earth. It would make
Hmm.
sense if there were fewer people because that would mean that we weren't such a burden on the Earth. That would mean that there wouldn't be so much conflict.
Hmm.
And it was this very uninformed and adolescent idea that if the Thanos model, you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kill
yeah.
half the people, and all of a sudden
Well,
balance
there are plenty of
schools,
people in the world right now who believe that that is the only way to save humanity, and that's a belief.
and that is an incredibly anti-human belief that I don't understand at all.
I'd rather go the other way. I rather there's I saw this episode about the Kepler equation. Like, are we so what level of civilization are we? Are we level one, level two, level three, level four? We're technically right now like a level 0.6. And it's based on our energy output and our energy consumption and our energy creation. And once we
Mm.
can fully use all 100% of the energy of the sun, we'll be a type 1 civilization. Now, the only way to get there is to consume more energy, because we need to build things that you know what I mean? Like, to expand, we need more energy to expand, which means we're consuming more energy to take that, which means we got to develop the technology to consume more energy. Hence the equation.
Sure.
but there's a counter philosophy to this, like you're saying. Well, we should reduce our energy consumption. What that does is that keeps us inside the box, because only by expanding our energy consumption well beyond our means will we develop the technology to survive that transition.
That makes
Right.
sense.
So,
And this is something that Jordan Peterson talks about as well when he says the these people who claim to be like climate activists that claim to be saving the earth are really doing so under the guise of hating humanity,
it could
right?
be.
It's this idea that, oh, people need to eat less, people need to eat bugs, people need to eat other people.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember, like a year and a half ago, right? Your bar is, hey, no cannibalism, right? That's
Right. That's
just too far.
can't do it.
About a year and a half ago or 2 years, there was a lot of people talking about I think it may have been a TED talk, potentially like a speaker at the World Economic Forum at Davos,
Hmm.
talking about the way to solve the human food crisis was to potentially
Eat the dead.
eat other people, which you're free to do so if you so choose, honestly. But it's this idea that, hey, if we if we do produce less food, that'll actually be a good thing, because how many fat Americans are there? If you have less food to eat, you won't be so fat, right? And we know better because we're trying to save the earth. So this gives you not only like
Hmm.
moral superiority or a sense of moral superiority, but it also gives you a roadmap
Yeah.
into the sort of actions that you might need to take in order to realize that goal.
Right. Because we're trying to save the earth and not the people. Like, why are we
Because
bothering saving the earth
the
if it's not for the
people
people?
are this metastasizing cancer upon the earth, and
Right.
the earth is this holy female sovereign that should be protected and nurtured at all costs. And, okay, sure, yes, the earth is pretty great. I love living here. I have my entire life.
Uh, right.
But we are in a constant state of negotiation with the world that is often actively trying to kill us.
Right. Right. All by itself, by the way. Just as a
As a matter of existence,
as a matter of existence.
mudslides
Yeah.
taller than the building that you live in could just
Yeah.
work out, right?
Right. Right.
So these people who think that there need to be fewer people in order for the earth to be a good place to be have either not conceptualized the problem appropriately, which is, if taken to its logical consequence, you should kill yourself if that is what you truly believe, right?
Hmm.
Right? If that is your seriously held, deeply held belief, okay, nobody is stopping you from reducing your carbon footprint to zero right now. It, why aren't you? Is it because you don't fully believe that people are bad? Or is it because you believe that you should have the power to determine how other
Yeah.
people are going to live their lives?
Well, I think what it comes down to is control, as always. Right. Fewer people means it's easier to control. 100%.
Scary.
So that's just, I mean, that's just, and that's the problem. That's what I'm talking about. Class civilization, right? These are forces. These are tyrannies that need to be actively pushed up against,
Mhm.
And that's why you need more leaders. That's my whole belief system. Why we need more leaders. And you're talking about Parenthood. What you know? What's interesting? I'm a numbers guy, right? I'm just a numbers guy. I just looked it up in 1850. Just funny. This is when the dates go back. The percentage of Black Americans or slaves, right? Previous slaves, whatever, like in that time frame. You know the percentages of what they were at the time? 12%.
12% of the United States
of the
population.
of the United States population.
Pretty
You
stable
know what
until
they
now.
are? You know what they are in today's percentage? 14%.
Pretty stable.
It's not stable. It's called.
Cold, like there's an intentional effort to kill Black people or to remove them from the population of the United States.
Or just not allowing them to be born.
Yeah, I've heard that
You don't
too.
see Planned Parenthood in predominantly white neighborhoods.
Well, I mean, I think this is an idea that,
So I'll say this, and I'll say it on record because I think it's crap, right? I think it's crap. I'm a numbers guy, and I'm just looking at the numbers, and there's no reason when per population, per male, he's having up to 6, 7, 8 kids on the norm, right? 6, 7, 8 kids on the norm compared to a white male who's having 2
Mhm.
on the norm. Multiply that 200 years, and the number should be dramatically different. It should be. Numbers should be different. Should be way different, like 40%, 50% even. But hey, there's something happening, and there's something that has been happening for a very long time. And I think people need to talk about it, to question it, and go, well, why are these places in these places? Why do you have payday loans in front of military bases? Same reason, right? Captive market,
Mhm.
because they can, right? Because it makes sense. You don't have payday loans down near a gated community. I'm just saying, like these things are the way the poor are treated, right? Social economically, they get treated way worse. It is expensive as hell to be poor. And so when and then you keep a percentage of a population poor social economically, they just happen to be of color, right? Social economically. Like the percentage of that's a good number. That's a number I need to find. People of color in that just demographic, right? Percentage who are poor, middle class, rich, ultra wealthy, right?
Mhm.
Does the proportions match out in the United States in general proportions? I don't know. I think that'd be that's a worthwhile effort to get that data.
Well, so there's,
But I worry about that stuff. Like this, these are the things that these are the forces, right? That I
yeah.
worry about because there was a time, right, where certain ideologies, right, were negotiating about over ideologies, and that people of color are less than people not of color, and that is as recent as like 10 years ago. Even in this location here where I'm at, they are the most racist people I've ever met in my life. Wow, the most polite.
Wait, what do you mean that 10 years ago? Like what?
Like forces actively trying to keep down another person because of their race
Well, that's
alone.
happening right now. That's
I
happening right
know,
now.
I know, but I'm saying like, well, I'm talking about like on a government scale.
Yeah,
By
that's happening
last,
right now.
yeah, inside the United States.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's called the welfare system.
yeah, well,
Do you want to know how to keep a population poor? Keep them dependent, wholly dependent upon financial and social services that you provide, and incentivize them to continue to rely on those services so that they never have a big, hairy, audacious goal, so that they
There
never
you go.
think there could be something more. When I was going through my social work program, one of the things that they taught us to do, and this is like in my textbook,
Mm,
was when you are providing social services to somebody, make sure that they do not earn more money. Make sure that they do not earn too much money to still receive government benefits, right? Because there's a threshold. If you
mhm,
earn more than $12,000 a year, the government will no longer subsidize you to live in your shitty little two bedroom, one bath apartment
mhm,
with your three kids, working your two jobs, right?
mhm.
The government won't pay you anymore, and they want to keep you locked down. They want to keep you on that lifeline because and this is where I had a real issue with that. Like we are working to ensure that there can always be a market for social work, which means that there always need to be people who are poor,
Mm,
which means that we need to incentivize people to stay poor. That seems to me to be inherently evil, and yet that is the mentality, that is the ideology that persists in these
yeah,
bureaucracies. Like we need to be able to justify our existence, which means that we need a constituency to serve, which means that we need to keep
yeah.
people there.
And it doesn't matter how well you serve them because that's not what's being measured.
But
It's number of people you're serving, not how they're being served.
how much you can give them,
Yeah, yeah,
how little
yeah.
they can rely upon themselves.
And this is, and I think when we talk about incentivization, this is a good close up, because you're talking about like we started this conversation talking about hairy audacious goals and the difference between people that have them and then people that don't, and some of the reasons why. Right, I'm a big proponent of the enemy. Right, you should get pissed off at something, and that should help direct where you should be heading, because I think they'll align to your values naturally. And then if you then you can pick them out, right? To go, oh yeah, this is definitely freedom. That's my value. I strongly articulate the word freedom like in my vocabulary. Like this is a value of to me. I didn't know that until 2 days ago when I looked at the value sheet and said freedom. It's like, yeah, that's the one. Now I have words to articulate the feeling, right? So the utility of the exercises, magnified by fighting against whatever it is that you find as wrong in the world. Um, there are always going to be people with agendas that don't make sense to other people with agendas and a true neutral stance. People that want people to remain poor believe they're serving the world somehow, right? They believe they're the good guy, always. Others, like ourselves, would be like, "You're an idiot." It'd be better if no one was poor, BT dub, and everybody was self sufficient and had
Won't
skills and
somebody think
ability.
of all those poor social
Right?
workers though?
You know what? You know what? OnlyFans is hiring. Like, I don't care. Like, there's always an option,
You said,
right? I
I
don't
don't
care.
think these are the
I
people
don't
that we
care.
gotta find an
The moral of
audience.
the story is all the world's mankind's knowledge right here now, access to create whatever you want and distribute it as easily as humanly possible for
Mhm.
free. Go screw yourself if you're not creative enough to figure something out. That's my stance. I don't care. Like you gotta be able to be willing to figure it out. And if you don't, find a mentor, find a coach, find somebody. I do, you do, right? We seek improvement. Our cup is too small. We gotta expand our cup. I need somebody that's better than me. And don't be so egotistical and self-righteous to think that you know it all. There's my message, people. There's my message.